Shalom, all praises to Yahweh Bar Hashem, Yahweh Shai Bar Hashem, HaRakah, Kudash. Double honors unto the apostles and elders, a great millstone who rule well. And shalom to the whole full elect. This is Payal of the GMS London camp. And this is News and Prophecy, Prophecy and News. I have an article here from Zero Hedge. And the title reads, CIA releases Black Vault UFO files. Alright? So, if you know anything about, the word, a big part of the doctrine, one of the last key prophecy that will segue into the kingdom of heaven is Yahweh Shai, alright, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, who according to Revelations, the first chapter, and many other scriptures, is a so-called black man, is going to return in what Esau, the so-called white man, describes as UFOs, alright? Or UAPs, alright? But this is being done, alright, being true to his nature in deceptiveness, being a devil, to basically take away, or attempt to take away the elect of Yahweh Bar Hashem Yahweh Shai away from the truth onto a lie. But they know what they're doing in reality. That's why the whole idea of UFOs is filled with aliens and all this kind of stuff. So without further ado, I'm going to delve into the article. Lord willing, you're edified. So it says CIA releases Black Vault UFO files. The CIA has released a large cache of files involving unidentified flying objects, UFOs, also known as unidentified aerial phenomena, and that's a name they coined last year, I believe. They said they started calling them that. All right, a rebrand or whatever it is, following the Freedom of Information Act request by podcaster John Greenwald Jr. Greenwald operates a website called the Black Vault, where he has made the files available in searchable PDF format. All right, so I'm going to carry on reading. The release comes less than 6 months before the government's official UFO report, which was inserted into the Vid-19 Omnibus Bill, and includes reports that date back to the 1980s, according to Greenwald, who scanned everything by hand in order to create searchable PDFs. Around 20 years ago, I thought for years to get additional UFO records released from the CIA, he told Motherboard in an email. It was like pulling teeth. I went out and around with them to try and do so. Finally achieving it, I received a large box of couple thousand pages, and I had to scan them one page at a time. According to the blog announced the archive, the CIA created a CD-ROM containing previously released records, as well as Black Vault was attempting, as well as those that the Black Vault was attempted to unseal. To ensure the Black Vault has a complete record of CIA documents as possible available, it purchased this CD-ROM in mid-2020. The Black Vault blog notes that the CIA claims that this represents all the documents on the file, but there may be no way to verify that, and other documents may be out there. Vice. And he seemed to find Vice at the helm of all of these things, man. Anyway, researchers and curious minds alike prefer simplicity and accessibility when they look at data dumps such as these, said Greenwald, adding, the CIA has made it incredibly difficult to use their records in a reasonable manner. They offer a format that is very outdated. Alright? I'll read that again. The CIA has made it incredibly difficult to use their records in a reasonable manner. They offer a format that is very outdated, multi-page TIFF, and offer text file outputs largely unusable that I think they intend to they people use as search tool. In my opinion, that's outdated format. It's very difficult for people to see documents, and use them for any research. Um, so last point. As we reported last month, UFO sightings in New York City have increased 31% over 2019. We can only imagine, given recent events, that any aliens observing the current state of affairs are either highly entertained or ready to end the experiment. And this is what they do, all right? Basically, with this whole UFO business, this foolishness, this tomfoolery that they do, they present it in a manner where the only reaction that can happen from most of the people, the general public, is to throw out the baby with the bathwater, all right? The baby being the fact that UFOs are real, all right? What the so-called white man calls UFOs, they're real, all right? If you saw something flying in the air and it's not identified, that's an unidentified flying object. But the reality is, there's the chariots of Israel that have been mentioned from the beginning of time, all right? And even had Enoch basically speak of it, going back to being the seventh from Adam, all right? And who actually, after speaking about it and prophesying of it, for whatever set amount of time he was actually taken by a chariot to show you the greatness of the words he was prophesying, all right? And that being Enoch, meaning Chawanak in the Hebrew, meaning man of understanding, basically is the same, is a figure of what's to happen to the men of understanding, those being of the elect, who, as Isaiah 33:6 tells him, says, wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times and strength of salvation. So those that will be saved is gonna be the wise ones, basically, the Enochs, the Kavanach. And not to say that's a name for us, but just for the sake of the figure, you understand what I'm saying, all right? So these are signs that's being spoke of throughout the Bible, from start to finish, all right? And the finish is actually speaking about Yahushua coming back in chariots. So that's the baby people will throw out with the bathwater. Bathwater being things like the aliens looking, being highly entertained, or ready to end the experiment. That's all foolishness, man. But the point being is Esau knows what he's doing, right? So I'm just gonna read this point and wrap up the video. I could have just done that actually. Alright, so this is Revelations 1:7, and it reads, "Behold, he cometh with clouds." Alright. Let me read it through and then I'll break it down afterwards. Revelations 1:7-8. Alright. Behold, he cometh with clouds, and every eye shall see him, and they also which pierced him, and all kindreds of the earth shall wail because of him. Even so, Amen. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, saith the Lord, which is, and which was to come, and which was, and which is to come, the Almighty. Alright, so the main point being verse 7, so let me read that. Behold, he cometh with clouds. Yeah, the clouds that are being spoke of is the same cloud that he was in, going back to the time of Moses when the Exodus happened. That the cloud being what Esau calls a UFO, which is known as the Chariot of Israel, which went before the congregation of Israel as a cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. Right, that's what's spoke of in the book of Psalms, 104th chapter, and the 3rd verse, I believe, where it says, he maketh the clouds his chariots, all right, which basically are the vehicles for the heavenly host. All right, so behold, he cometh with clouds, going to come with many, what the so-called white man calls UAPs, UFOs, the chariots of Israel, all right, and every eye shall see him. Everyone's going to see him, all right, as he described in the book of 2nd Esdras. It said it looked like a great mountain that the beginning or the end couldn't be determined, all right, and they also which pierced him, and all kindreds of the earth shall wail because of him. Even so, Amen. All right, and everyone's saying he's coming back to bring peace. He ain't coming back to bring peace. He even said, I come not to bring peace, but a sword. All right, because the time of peace to bring everyone onto the doctrine was the time when he was here walking the earth before. All right, and he sealed the elect back then, and then he did what he had to do in making himself a sacrifice. But now, guess what? What's he got to do? He's now got to come and bring the destruction, all right? The vengeance of the Heavenly Father. That's why it says, and all the kindred of the earth shall well because of him. Even so, Amen. All right, and they're going to well because he's going to bring that destruction. And only the elect are going to be happy to see him. That's why it's even so, Amen. Amen being meaning in the Hebrew meaning so be the will. All right. So with that, man, I pray you're edified to the next one. Say shalom.